Tommy Brady is going to start broadcasting games. He's getting paid $1 billion to do it because he is a big name. But there is an issue, Mr. Hardy.
Yes. The very fact that he is trying to become part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders has triggered these restrictions from the NFL. So this is reported by Fox Sports, ESPN, the NFL.com has a story about it. And it is, quote, Brady is not permitted to attend in-person or online broadcast production meetings and may not have access to team facilities, players, or coaches. The rest of the Fox staff, of course, is not subject to these limitations, but he has to abide by the league constitution and bylaws that prohibit public criticism of officials and other clubs, but is allowed to broadcast Raiders games. So, essentially, Brady being offered up reportedly a 7% stake in the Las Vegas Raiders by owner Mark Davis for reasons which I still don't completely understand. Here, I've got this super valuable thing that grows in value every single year after year after year. Do you want some?
Sure.
Why are you offering this to me? Oh, because I want you hanging around. I want you to be friends, and I want you to be one of my owners.
He needs friends.
So the fact that he is even attempting to do this prohibits him from doing all the things required of the play-by-play and the color analyst going into a game. You go into the production meeting, you sit down in the facility, you talk with the coach, you talk with the players, you talk with the OCs. You do all this stuff in the days leading up to the game. Brady can't do any of it. Not allowed to.
So he can't do the job. I mean, it makes sense that you can't let a guy who, I don't know, owns another team go in and watch your practices.
It makes sense.
Yep.
And
you can't. I mean, it's unfair. That's obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But if the whole point is you fly into it, we've talked to these guys a million times, Harlan and Iron Eagle and like all this stuff. You know, we have them on all the time, and they fly into the town. They go, they meet with all the people. Now, if I'm a coach, I'm not saying anything to Brady. I mean, just whatever they normally do. But if I'm like Andy, unfortunately, Let's Go is back. And this morning it was on and Andy Reid was on, and I couldn't tell you what he said. So he is talking to coaches, at least interviewing them. There's nothing I dislike more. It's more disappointing than when Let's Go is on. but of course he can't do that. But if the whole point is that you're going to go and learn about the team and learn about the goings on and watch practice, and that's invaluable to the broadcast, and he can't do it, then he shouldn't be broadcasting. And if I was another color commentator, I'd be like, why do I have to sit through this boring crap? In this guy who you're paying all the money to that's in your A chair doesn't have to do it. If he wants to own the Raiders, own the Raiders. He doesn't need the money. Don't do the football games.
But Fox doesn't want him to not do the games. This is their big push. This is their big plan. For them, I don't know what else they have to point to in terms of an exciting way to get you to watch football outside of the actual games. This was their big splash. So I don't know what you do if you're Fox. And if you're Brady, you're already up against it going into a brand new job that you've never done before. It's not like you have any experience in this whatsoever. So how do you convince yourself and everyone else around you that you're going to be good at this, despite the fact that now you're hamstrung by one of the maybe the biggest piece of preparation for this, going in and talking with the teams ahead of time and doing the sit down so you can bring this stuff up during the broadcast. All right, we just saw that play they ran on 3rd and 2. You know, we talked with the offensive coordinator last week. They said they've been working on this, and they're trying to get away from the big chain-moving play on that play. They're just trying to get enough blah, blah, blah. This is all stuff that adds to the broadcast. He's not going to be a part of that.
He legit doesn't need to go to these games. He could sit at home and do this from his living room, right?
Well,
there's no reason for him to travel anywhere. He can't meet with anybody. He can't analyze. Yeah. He's watching a game on TV.
And we've said it before. You know, Wayne Gretzky's not particularly good at his job as a broadcaster, but you know why hockey in the NHL wanted Wayne Gretzky, because Wayne Gretzky is quite literally the only hockey name that everyone knows. Tom Brady's not the only. Tom Brady was not hired because of his glowing personality and superstar analytical abilities. He was hired. Most of his job is to go shake hands at sponsor events, but he was hired because of his name. And so, I mean, you're really just punting on the whole idea that the analyst has a real role. God.
Yeah, we discussed this a little bit with Michael Holley on Friday, and Holley's point was this will allow Brady, if he chooses to be more edgy. He doesn't have to worry about pissing people off. He's never going to meet with these people. He's quite literally just showing up to do a job at the last minute.
Okay.
It will give him the freedom to do this. I'm not saying he will.
All right. Well, I can counter that, John,
freedom.
and I can say, well, when he's doing a Chiefs game, which he'll do, when he's doing a Chiefs game, that's an AFC West team, and now why is he being so overly critical of them? Because he has a rooting interest in the Raiders. He doesn't have to do a Raiders game to have a rooting interest in the Raiders. This is all a really bad idea. They gave him too much money. He's not going to be. He might be fine at it, but I challenge that you even need anyone as a color analyst anyway. Here's the deal: you need a play-by-play guy for big events that makes it sound like a big event, like an Al Michaels or a Joe Buck at this point. I understand that. This is the big event. Al Michaels is going to do it. It sounds big, okay? But football's football. The best game is going to have the best ratings. If I was the broadcast company, and this is the only thing that makes sense, would pour all my money in the pre- and post-game shows because the only entertainment there is the hosts. There's no main event. It's you analyzing stuff and you talking and you BSing, and that's what people are looking at. So wouldn't that, in theory, be the more valuable broadcaster? Someone who can carry that? Because if you're a color commentator and you just kept your mouth shut, say you just sat there and you barely talked. You were like Major League. You barely talked. How many complaints are you going to get there? Oh, he didn't talk enough. Have you ever heard that complaint? Maybe it's happened, but it doesn't. There's over talking. There's being Tony Romo and going being all like dumb. There was Dan Fouts who didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yep.
But the worst case scenario, say you started having it's the only one job in broadcasting where you could have a panic attack and no one would know about it. Like you could have a mental breakdown and just sit. They could turn your mic off and no one would know. But this is who they give all the money to.
So two things now. Yesterday, in what seems like damage control, Fox Sports published a story saying that the newest NFL on Fox lead broadcast analyst is going to bring something new to the table. Tom Brady kept notes from every NFL game he played and will use them in broadcasts. Meticulously organized in binders every game he played during his 23-year career. Brady has shown the thumbing through them and said, I kept track of all this information. It's organized really well. And he said, I want to refer back to players or schemes or defensive coordinators. It's all here if the guy is still in the league. And I'll do the same thing as a broadcaster. I'm going to store information going into the season.
Yeah, I'm not at all concerned about his ability to look at what's going on in the field and tell you. I mean, he's played forever and he was great at it. My thing is that if it's necessary to talk to the players and coaches and you're getting information and it's not schematic necessarily, it's learning about their personalities, watching them interact with the team, seeing the vibe of the team, maybe getting an interesting anecdote, something like that. And they'd all love Brady and they'd sit down and they'd be respectful of him and they'd want to talk to him.
Right, and you're going to want to engage him, but Ryan Clark from ESPN brings up a good point too with this other restriction from the NFL. You can't be critical of officials or other teams. It's like, part of their their umbrella statement about how you're supposed to act as an owner or a partial owner. Ryan Clark says, how do I know if what Tom Brady says, when he does interject and he's going to say anything, Fred, let's say he's going to err on the side of speaking less. He said, how do I know if what Tom Brady is saying about the officials is real when there is a limitation and a restriction on what he can say about the officials? How do I know what he's saying about the league is real when there's a limitation based on his pending ownership? And he goes on to say, oh, yeah, and he's replacing Greg Olson, who by many accounts is the best at it right now. And you've got
Olson and Aikman, yeah.
Yeah, you've got that bar to live up to right now as it is. And now you're going to limit yourself, or you're going to bring into question, is what you're saying even the truth? Because you've got all these limits on what you can say because of your impending ownership.
So own a team or do the TV.
Yes.
He's putting himself, this is not going to work out. It's not going to work out.
We didn't think it was going to work out before all this happened.
No.
Which would you do?
If I was him, I'd own the team.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah,
you own the team.
So owning the team requires you to go out of pocket. I don't know what the discount is that he's being offered on the 7% stake. If it's worth $6 billion, 7% of that is $420 million. Let's say he's giving him a big discount. Tom Brady's got to come up with $300 million in something.
Okay, in 20 years, what's that $300 million worth?
But you're out of pocket $300 million right now.
But you're buying into a lifestyle and all this stuff. It's passive income. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would much rather do that because it doesn't keep him out of media in general. It just keeps him out of doing color commentary. I mean, he could go and do 1 million advertisements, and he could go and, do. I'm sure he could do inside the NFL and stuff. You don't have to be critical of the officials on inside the NFL. There's ways you could do stuff. He doesn't have to be a color commentator.
He doesn't have to be, but I don't know what other job he gets. That's going to guarantee him $375 million over the next 10 years. And number two, it's the same profile. Getting 30 seconds on a halftime show, or getting to talk every 3 or 4 minutes for 10 seconds at a time on a pregame show. Well, it's not the same visibility. It's not the same profile as being the lead analyst on Fox.
But I'm not positive how much that matters to me if I'm a legendary player.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.